Class is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to all of you who are viewing this Times Techies webinar. It's the 17th edition of this webinar. My name is Sujit John. I have with me my colleague Shilpa Fadnis, and together we will moderate this session. We have a special session today. It's in association with LogMeIn. LogMeIn is a Boston-based company that provides cloud-based remote connectivity services for collaboration, IT management, and customer engagement. It has an engineering center in Bangalore with about 250 people. We have two guests today, and they will be discussing how customer experience trends are evolving in the post-COVID world, given that most people are working from home, are wary of stepping out, are wary of physical interactions. The way companies interact with customers has to change. And for many companies, it has probably already changed significantly. A lot of interactions have moved online. So how do you create the best experiences there? To discuss all this and more, we have with us Rinal Rai. He's the manager and principal analyst at ISG. ISG, as many of you would know, is a technology research and advisory firm. Rinal's area of expertise is digital workplace services and enterprise social collaboration from both a technology and business point of view. He has been with ISG for over 5 years now. Welcome, Rinal.
Thanks, Sushil.
We have with us Rebecca Kurian. Rebecca is the head of marketing at LogMeIn India. She's also responsible for brand and digital initiatives. She joined LogMeIn in 2015. Prior to that, she was in Akamai Technologies and Dell Computers. Over the course of her 15-year career, she has conceptualized and executed brand campaigns, driven digital performance, and has even run a successful startup. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank you very much.
Renan and Rebecca will make short presentations, and then we'll have a Q&A. Those who are viewing this can send in questions through the chat box. Shilpa and I will put them to Mrinal and Rebecca. I request Mrinal to make the first presentation. Mrinal.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank you so much for the good and wonderful introduction. Good evening to all the attendees, and hope you're safe and healthy wherever you are. Sujit gave a very good introduction for me. Just a small correction. I've been with ISG for last 7.5 years. I'm a principal analyst. Yeah, I'm a principal analyst, and I write research reports around digital workplace, as you said, customer experience and digital technology. So I write about vendors, how they are doing and who is leading the market, comparing them, also enterprise point of view. So ISG research covers these areas extensively, and we write periodic reports around that. It's a pleasure to be here today in this session to talk about a very interesting topic about impact of COVID on customer experience. So I have some slides with me, and I would like to show it to you. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah.
So just please confirm.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, good. So I have some point of views to mention about what is the impact of COVID on customer experience. If you see, look at these. If you look at these trends that I mentioned on the slides, actually, I would say that the pandemic, the trends in customer experience are not new, and they have been there in the industry for quite some time, and it was taking its own. The industry was taking its own time to actually adopt them. What the pandemic has done, however, is accelerated the shift towards these trends. So some things that the companies and clients and customer experience executives would have adopted, say 3 to 5 years from now, they have to adopt now. So the timelines have reduced, but otherwise, thankfully the technology was advancing in towards such a way to improving the customer experience and customer experience management capabilities. So a couple of trends mentioned here. I'm sure the audience would be aware of many of them, but still it's good to go through them. The first and the most important one and the most obvious one is that the self-service for customers has become more important than ever. So when you talk about customer experience, still customers would like to pick up a phone and talk to a real human agent. There have been the channels that can allow customers to do self-service on their own, to exhaust all the channels that they can serve on their own. What the pandemic has done, that because the customer service executives are been working from home and not really all the time available, so customers have to use self-service. So the usage, which was a kind of an option, has become priority. And when speaking of the priority, I would say that the digital channels, they have to be the first contact entry point for any customer experience journey. So when we say email, anything that you can reach out to without really have to talk to a human agent. So these channels have become a preferred choice for customer experience journey, and it's good in a way that all the customer experience management teams, they were experimenting with these channels. They can really see where they are faltering, what they have to improve on. A key important parameter in this, a key important aspect in customer experience and with technology is artificial intelligence. When we say AI-enabled contextualization, which has become more important than ever in the present time, what we mean really is that the technology and the system that manages customer experience should be aware of the context in which the customer is making a request or seeking the support. So when we say contextualization, I will give you a very small example. I know many of you would have reached out to Amazon customer care. So I'll tell you my experience that when I reached out to them, they would ask me my phone number, and when I enter the phone number, I would get a call from one of their agents. Now imagine an AI engine working behind that. As soon as I enter my number, it can run an analytics. Technology has those capabilities, but privacy is a concern. But imagine an analytics engine which can find out who am I and what kind of it can. If my phone number is associated with, say, my social media accounts, it can find out if a user is finicky about a product, and if I can rave praises in Twitter, or maybe drag the brand into Twitter and say something bad about them. So if that analytics can be done, and that is not impossible. So that is one example of, and a very extreme example of contextualization, that as soon as a customer reaches out through a digital channel, the analytics engine can identify what the context is. I mean, what all the channels that the end customer is already tried before reaching out to you. So that has become very important. If you talk about bringing business to customers' home, that's a given, because in the pandemic time, in social distancing, we all are working from home, and to bring business to customers' home, it was earlier a convenience, but now it has become a priority or a necessity. If you talk of hyper-personalization, I think that it is very important. Again, an extensive use of artificial intelligence and automation and analytics, that when a customer reaches out to a customer support channel, the channel and the system should know who the customer is, what they have purchased previously, what are their likes, what are their dislikes, and if they had a previous bad experience, their order history. If a system is aware of all these capabilities and it already provides that contextualization to the customer, then their experience is elevated. It's a really frustrating time when you call a customer care number, the call gets dropped, and you have to call again, and you have to explain the same problem to a new agent all the time. Technology eliminates that, and in the pandemic world, it's more important than ever. When we say technology enables a lot of things, but it comes at the price of what data can be shared with these channels. That's where data privacy and security come. It's an emerging area of concern for customer service, but it's an important area. Again, technology can also help in these areas. So when customers are providing data, the more data they provide, the better informed the systems are. However, there are areas where the usage of AI and these technologies can help enhance the experience. So, for example, when a brand is doing a customer feedback questionnaire or survey, and they ask customers to fill something, and customer is filling some details which may be personal, then a system can be intelligent enough to prompt the customer, do you really want to enter this kind of information, because it is a private information. So again, it is not impossible, and technology can enable that. So this is where technology can enable data privacy and security, because now even though customers are okay to give the information, everyone knows that data is the new oil. So people are aware about what bad things can happen if they share some sensitive information. It's an emerging area of concern, but our research says that there is a strong focus towards it. If you talk about customers, it's a very important point that when a brand provides a poor customer experience, customers can choose to stop doing business with them. That's a given. But when you talk of something like COVID, what we have observed through our research is that if customers are interacting with the brand and the brand does not perform well and they provide a poor customer service, the disassociation that happens, that can be severe and which cannot be which may be very difficult to regain again. If we look at new technologies like artificial augmented reality or virtual reality for customer experience, these are very interesting use cases. Now customers cannot go to a retail store or a shop to buy things, but the technologies like AR and VR can really help customers to say try a new outfit or try a new thing. You can use your webcam or your own face. There are brands who have been trying that. You can use these augmented reality technology to see how a dress looks on you. Without going to a store. The tech is there and it has been there. What the pandemic has done, its usage will increase. We talk about data privacy security. Similarly, there is also an interest in securing user identity and verification. There are multiple technologies that can secure user identity. If you talk of biometric authentication, it's like it may be a fingerprints, it may be a facial or some other recognition which can identify the user based on their biometrics. Similarly, there is a multi-factor authentication that when a user interacts with a channel and it provides a second degree of authentication, it could be a password or any other mechanism to identify the user's identity. So it's important comparing it with the traditional phone call when you have to give 100 things to verify that you are the same user. These technologies can be used, which can enhance experience and can reduce the amount of time the agent takes to identify the user. That is again a key area of concern. When I talk about technologies like facial recognition or sentiment analysis, there are very interesting use cases around that. I was reading about it. It's already happening in the West. And it's not impossible, even though it still applies to a physical store location, not really in the pandemic world, but the use cases can be extended to present times as well. That when a customer visits a store and they really don't find thing that they're looking for, and that's when they get the email or get a notification from the respective store saying that, hey, we know that you couldn't get the things that you wanted for. You can use your social media profile picture, say from Facebook, and we can identify you next time when you visit the store, and we can make sure that you are served better. And that's a great example of customer experience. Again, it still depends on if the customer really wants to share that information. Now, if you can use the same thing in the present COVID times when customers cannot really go to a store, but in video interaction where they can share their faces, the sentiment analysis kind of technologies actually tells you what is the user thinking right now. Is he really happy with the service or not? When you talk of digital workplace technologies, it has already been implemented in the enterprises, where sentiment analysis over phone or over chat can be analyzed to see if a customer is really happy with that kind of service. The kind of words that the user is using over chat, that can be analyzed to find out how happy the customer is, or in this case, the end user is, based on the service that they are getting. There's a very important point about important KPIs and matrices for customers' experience. Now, it's again not dependent on COVID, but the COVID has just made this point very important. It is not relevant for COVID, but the pandemic has made it very important. Traditionally or legacy-wise, the KPIs that the customer experience executives were using were not really about customer experience measurement, but more about how well they are doing their job. For example, KPIs like average handling time or first call resolution rate were about how well the agent is able to solve a customer query. When you talk of first call resolution, whether the issue was resolved on the first call, on average handling time is how at an average how much time does the user take to the customer care call took. These are really good KPIs and traditional KPIs and very strong ones, but they really don't measure customer experience. It's all about how effective your operations was. If you talk of customer experience, there are a lot of other things that can be measured. It's not about how efficient your process is, but how much effort the customer has to go through to reach a solution. So how many channels he has already tried before reaching out, how much effort that the customer is spending. And these kind of analytics will really help in determining the customer experience. So it's high time that the executives change these KPIs to measure real customer satisfaction instead of their operational efficiency. last but not the least is about customer empathy. Now, pandemic has been a very devastating for everybody, but what good thing it has done, that it has induced empathy. Even when the customers are interacting with brands, they know that there's a customer service executive who's actually not working from their office, regular office, and they're working from home. So they do have an empathy towards those brands. But despite of that, if the customer experience is not good, the brand association can suffer. And the same thing applies the other way around as well. That when the agent is interacting with the customer, they should also empathize with customers' situation, because these are not normal times. You cannot go face to face and solve issues. So these are some high level trends that we have been seeing, and these trends have always been there in the customer experience industry. But the pandemic has just accelerated the shift towards these things, especially the digital channel and usage of new technologies. So ISG has done a recent report on customer experience, which will be released soon, which really compared the key vendors in this space, of the contact center space. But it has identified few real important trends, at a very high level, especially from the vendor side of it. You can see the voice calls are seeing a decline, because the digital channels are increasing. There is an increasing usage of digital channels. The voice calls are seeing decline, but still the highest level of satisfaction is offered through this channel. So it will continue to serve as an important medium of communication. But what will change is only for the complex queries. As much the customers can resolve issues on their own, those channels will be preferred. Now, working from home is has really revolutionized the customer center or customer experience management services, because it's a new norm, and there are, except some regulated industry which does not allow users to work from home, to leave the data out of their data centers. Most of the executives can work from home. And what another important thing this work from home feature has enabled is usage of gig economy. You can work with freelancers. You can help expand the talent pool, taking in people with different talent. That's a good thing for the industry. Of course, the adoption of digital channels has increased. We have seen channels like WhatsApp and social media gaining traction. From contact center industry perspective, the move towards contact center as a service or cloud-based contact center has increased. It's going to increase. Last research said that only 36% of vendors were actually wanting to transition to a cloud-based contact center. Now that adoption is going to increase. As I said, personalization is the need of the hour, and that's how the analytics AI technologies can help. And when we talk about adoption of chatbots and conversational AI, is something that the industry have been trying for many, many years. And this pandemic has just accelerated that shift. And it can handle most of the level 1 or 2 low level inquiries, so that when the agent actually gets to receive the call, they are well informed about what all things the customer has already tried. So at a high level, this is what I have today for you, for the team, Sujit. Happy to take any question.
Great. Thanks. I mean, lots of technologies that can be used. I'll ask you later whether you know any examples of companies actually using them in the last few months. Rebecca, your presentation. Rebecca, I can't hear you. Yeah.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a little technical glitch. My system hung, not the internet. So, so I think that was a really good, set for me to sort of take up what I wanted to discuss. But thanks, Sujit, for the introduction previously. So LogMeIn, we are moving to being a more remote working company. So all of our products actually support in the remote working scenario. So all our platforms sort of help in the remote working space. So we all work from home. We transitioned naturally to work from home because all of our products is what we are using to work from home. So it's what we actually, our CEO often says that our mission statement was really what we actually did during the pandemic time, because that was exactly what we had to actually come in and do during those days. So so we were really able to take the challenges a company faces when you are working from an office to work from home without that hindrance. So we were able to diminish that, and so we were thankfully in that space to sort of help companies. So with that, I think the reason for us as an interest is one of the products that we work with, and we also help customers, is one of our products called Bowl 360, which is a customer engagement AI chat powered. So because of which we have been looking at customers, and we have a lot of customers who have been using and going through these digital, who's moving to this digital platform from a customer engagement perspective. So this is sort of my advice for the post-pandemic, right? So based on everything that we have seen so far, this is what I would suggest companies to do, how big or small you are, to really embrace digital. Because, people are, there was a situation where we were planning for the millennials, organizations were planning for the millennials, then the Gen Z was getting ready, but now your parents are going to want to be digital. They are going to be not comfortable wanting to go to a shop to buy something. They are going to figure out how they can shop online. So if we have to embrace this, it's not an option anymore. It's one of your main strategies as all businesses, as a B2C business, as a B2B business. This is going to be one of your very, very key important aspect of how you go to market. So fortify your digital channels, right? So as Mrinal showed earlier, the phone lines are going down. Try to move people to your digital channels. One of the biggest things that we hear from people are that they have adopted technologies. They have taken technologies into their system, but the biggest issue that they face is the adoption of it. So they feel like consumers or their employees are not adopting these new technologies that are coming. The reason is that you brought your technology in, but you haven't really strengthened it, or you haven't amplified it. So fortify it, strengthen it, give it everything that it needs. Don't give a broken experience. And a broken experience is that I actually placed an order and you have a digital only customer support. I keep going back because you have given me a list of items to choose from. There is no way to escalate to a human being, because I really I paid 7,000 rupees to something. I'm not getting the order. I want to speak to someone because I have a serious issue. But your digital channel breaks because you don't have a good transition. So really figure out how you're going to make this easy. So fortify your digital services, amplify it, talk about it, empower your employees. As Mrinal said earlier, we are going to embrace work from home, which means we are not going to have huge number of people sitting out in an office and there are team leads supporting, look, I have this issue, can you help me? You're going to have a lot of employees that are going to be in the customer support scenario, sitting in their houses alone and working, and they need to be self-sufficient to be able to support customers. So support them, empower them, and I'll show you in a minute how we can do that. Optimize it. So as you are embracing all these digital channels, you will learn what is working and what is not working for you, what kind of channels you need to put your muscle behind. So optimize it. Let your platform teach you what is working and what is not working. And as you are getting to that stage, optimize it, tune it, fine tune it. Your technology should be able to give you that insight. And then evolve to the next level, which is with all the things that Mrinal showed in the first slide, right? Which is AI. And I bought Lenskart is a good example. I wanted to change my glasses and I didn't really walk into a store. They, took the picture of my face, they measured my sight, and they sent the glasses home, which was perfectly fitting for me. Good example, great way of adopting technology, and works perfectly in the pandemic situation. So evolve your, once you're set up in these first few things, evolve it to a situation where you are now embracing all of the new age technology that can make your business really stand out. So with that being said, I'm going to not geek everybody out, but going to sort of give you like a basics of how an engagement journey would look like. And a simple thing as AI. AI, Mina will agree to me, is like something that is basic that you can use to sort of digitize today and sort of automate some of your processes. So I'm going to show you a real life example. So this is a customer engagement journey, typically that will happen in any organization, B2B, B2C, any situation. So on your left side, you will see all the different ways of how somebody is interacting with you. They'll send you an email, or they'll come to your website and interact with you. They will send you a text message or call you by their using their phone, or they'll come to your app, or they will send you a WhatsApp message. They use some kind of a messaging tool to reach you. Then all of this goes, it depends on you have a broken experience or a good experience. Like, are they all connected? We don't know, but this is your first way your customer is interacting with you. Then there is a way, there are questions that will come for customer support, product support. If you're a bank, you will have zillions. I want to open a new account. I want to close my account. I have a issue with like a fraud in my account. My bank thing was stolen. There could be multiple kinds of issues that will come. How is the routing happening? Can you automate it, or is it like manually happening today? Then it goes to an agent. Is the agent who's now sitting at home have to have 25 screens or things open, or have my manager on WhatsApp, have various people that is going to support you? And then I also have to work with third parties, because my data sits in another third party system somewhere else. And then I also, because let's say it's a problem with my phone, and the customer support is trying to help me, they have to run a script. So look at this complex world of support. You can take this scenario of this being a support. You can take the scenario of it being a forward-looking sales, like you're going through a e-com sales process. It could be like us, LogMeIn, right? Like all of our products are try and buy. You can try it and then you could buy. It could be a process like that. So it could be fit into any scenario. So let me show you how it would look like if you were to put AI in the middle of this. So this is the basic, simple, automation or digital that you can, adopt, right? As basic as you can adopt. So right in the beginning, as soon as your customer talks to you, you can have your natural language understanding or your conversational AI, and I will tell you what they are right in the beginning. Remember, I told you, you're not catering anymore to the millennials or the Gen Z. You are now catering to your parents. So if you don't have an AI that can have a conversation with you, so let's say I spelled something wrong and the bot immediately throws up the message to me saying, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you just said, something around that. So that could be a very broken experience for the customer. So you should have a situation where the AI is really conversational. It is having a conversation with you. It should be able to decipher what you're trying to say, irrespective of the spelling, of the grammar, not the perfect text, and it should be able to naturally understand that you're trying to say. That's your first aspect. Study says 80% of all interactions can be closed in the first point. It doesn't have to go through this whole cycle at all. If you put a good AI in the front that is learning on the job, that knows all your basic answers, 80% of your queries will be answered at the user engagement. So imagine for me, if I had a situation where I was trying to buy something on e-com and I spent some money, but my order did not get confirmed and I could not reach if I was able to finish this at the first point, my experience would have been much better. But let's say in the scenario, I have to get a refund back. So now I put a request, the AI is not able to help me. Now it has to escalate. So the AI has to be intelligent enough to understand, or you give you the option to speak to a human or have a callback arranged or send an email, some kind of action it needs to do at that point. So that is where you're closing the loop. You're keeping the loop closed. So you're not leaving the customer hanging, or you're not dropping the customer. So it's a good experience. And then it goes, and then you put AI in the routing area. So the AI can identify based on the intent of the conversation, whether it should go to a support rep, whether it should go to a sales rep. It can intelligently do it without any manual interaction. And then it goes to the agent. And remember, I told you your agents are now sitting at home. They don't have a team lead. They don't have peers to ask questions. So if they don't have the answer to it, they don't have to write an email to somebody or pick up a chat. They can have a conversation with an AI bot, which can immediately give them the scripted answer, which is completely scripted, that they don't even have to write the whole sentence, which will give you the full answer that you can copy paste and give it to the customer, or tell you what you can tell the customer. So you're sort of, making that agent's life so much more easier, productive, like, you're helping that person. And then it goes down the journey where you also have to meet multiple third-party agents, and all of this can be automated in the back, right? By having machine learning go and fetch information for you. You're having task bots do tasks for you, like run certain. So just imagine this scenario where you can work from anywhere at this point, because it is not bound by anything in general, and 80% of your activities you're finishing off on the first tab, because 80% will drop off right there, because you have sorted your customer issues right there, and the things that the 20% that is flowing through, you are able to efficiently manage. So this is an example of how you could use the basic AI in your mapping journey. So what we have seen, and some of the things that customers are using us for, like I said, a bank, ICICI Bank is being very proactive in terms of how they are reaching out to people. Dyson is our customer globally, is using for product discovery. Based on what your need is, it will recommend a product for you. Edible Arrangement, which is a simple flower arrangement company out of the US, will use AI to optimize its sales. Chegg, which is an intent-based channeling, so it basically channels your request. You open tickets to large tech companies, they will help you channel it. Planned Parenthood is a medical institute they're using for contextual journeys to help new parents on how they go through this journey. Canon is using for product support. So you can think about it being applicable to any kind of a scenario that you can simply sort of bring to life, and you can start as small as that. And the one thing which I would leave you with, which also talked about in my big slide, and if there's one thing that you should think about when you think about doing AI, is it needs to create harmony. No broken experience, complete the experience. The worst thing that you can do to technology, and why the adoption is there, is because people feel that I'm routed to a machine, and if my issue is not fixed, I'm dropped right there. You need to have a good system in which you're closing the loop. So in the situation that I call a support team, they should be able to, first of all, take me nicely to the support team, and the support team knows all my history. If it isn't, at least it should have a situation where they, like Mrinal said, put my phone number, know all my history, whatever I have done on the website, what I've been trying to do, and have context. So the human and the bot needs to work together. It needs to sort of not be broken. And there needs to be a good, seamless escalation process. It needs to be conversational, because you are not catering to a team that is going to give you the perfect sentence. It needs to be ready for anybody who's trying to type in any sort of language. So it needs to be conversational. If this don't mind the spelling mistake, the grammar, understand the intent and serve for it. It should be able to go fetch from your knowledge insights. It should work on multi-channel, so irrespective of the OS, irrespective of the device, it should work seamlessly on all of them. It should synchronize with all of your existing teams, your platforms. So it should not be so heavy on you that you have to go change your backend, right? It should work very seamlessly. The API should be open to connect to all of those ones in the background. And of course, like Mrinal said, there is nothing that we can compromise from being reliable, secure, and scalable. And that is something that you have to do due diligence on, how people are treating your data, where are they putting your data. So do your due diligence and make sure your customer data is safe. And so use a partner that is going to be secure and reliable. And this, if anything that you have to take away, this would be something that I would say, that make sure you're checking your boxes when you're sort of applying for that through this journey. So that's all I had, Sujit, and I just wanted to sort of bring that, and hopefully I didn't go too geeky, but yeah.
Great. Really embrace technology, digital. That's what you said. So you mentioned several companies. Is there one example that you can give in a little more detail? It'll be interesting to understand how somebody used it very well and some success metrics that you might have.
Yeah, so I'm going back to my screen if you can see it. So I'll talk about ICICI Bank because it will be close to home. So ICICI Bank, when they started with us, they didn't put a bot right then and there because they had the same issue, right? Like they didn't want to basically start bombarding their customers. To not be able to come on the phone line because their typical customers were used to calling up their relationship manager or the 1-800 number. So they were used to that. So how they started the pre-pandemic, this is way before the pandemic happened because they wanted to go the digital way. And if you look at in India, Sujit, banks actually led the way. Like they started adopting this technologies first. So all they did was simply created a Google-like search bar on their website, but it was conversational and AI powered. So you could ask any question there and it would try to fill out the answers for you from there. So that's how they first started. Then they saw they saw all those same metrics, right? They saw like close to 70-80% of their questions being answered because typically, and this is proven again and again and again, that typically you will see that the same kind of questions is what you will get predominantly. So they were able to, sort of reduce that. And then they started including, a chat bot, which will be personalized to you. So which means if you were to log in from your account, then it'll be personalized to you. So if you already have a home loan, it won't recommend a home loan or it won't do anything that is like something that you already have, but it will be personalized to you. So you can, ask your specific question. And that was the things that they started adding on, smoothly in the future. So they have seen huge amount of wins coming out of it. And, we are really happy to support them in this journey. And there's, lots more planned ahead for that.
Okay. Yeah, I know chatbots. We've been hearing more and more about AI-based chatbots doing wonderful things. Ma'am, Rinal, same thing, same question. I mean, can you think of some customers who've used some of these new age technologies and made a big difference?
Well, there are many examples that we come across, Sujit. As part of our research, we talked to a lot of contact center vendors, and they share with the success stories about NLP or AR, VR technologies. I think the stories are very similar to what Rebecca mentioned, and they're a very good one. So when we talk of, say, NLP or when you say chatbots, I would rather use the word of personal digital secretary. So that's how companies are projecting it, and the success stories, the best stories are around the same things. I'm not at liberty to tell the actual customer because we are bound by NDA from these providers, but there are a lot of good case studies that we have come across. But similarly, like the approach towards these, the successful approach towards adopting solutions like a chatbot is a phased manner. Like Rebecca mentioned, you have to have a very strong knowledge base that the bot can refer to. So, and a machine or a system is as good as the data it gets feed into it. So the more they learn, the better they perform. So the clients who have been able to do that, they are successful. Those who are not, they're still struggling despite of deploying these technologies.
Okay. Shilpa?
The only one thing that I would like to add is that, so what our technology does, and I'll give you a live example of it. So there was, and I don't want to name the brand that did it, but there was a specific brand that launched a phone in India, and they had a bot set up, and they had all answers to all the questions that was they could even think of that the customer asked, and they were so sure that the bot was going to fix everything. The question, but they got the most was, is this phone available in India? So for some reason, because they thought it is an IN site, that the phone definitely is a commonsensical question that it is available in India. So they didn't think about creating that question. So 80% of the questions were that, and the bot broke because they couldn't fix that answer. But it is a customer of ours, but the beauty of our product is that the agent, and I don't have the screen right now, but we have in live, it can show you what questions are coming. So you can basically, it's like a beautiful tile that will show, which is like what are the top questions you are getting. Let's say you did a launch right now. What are the top questions you're getting right now? And anybody, including me, who's not a techie, can go and edit and publish the answer for that. So it's as simple as that. Today's technology that is available for you to fix the knowledge base immediately. So one of the things that that also the technology is changing these days is that they are becoming very easy to adopt. It's not as difficult for, it's not complicated, and people should not get afraid that I need to have like, tons of data. You can start small. You can start off with a launch. Yeah, you can start off with a launch and see how that goes. That's also a possibility.
Okay. Shilpa?
Now you spoke about the new evolving metrics when it comes to customer service. If you can take us through some of them as customers are, looking at a multi-platform journey.
So the new matrices are actually uses a lot of these technologies. If we talk about the traditional way that the customer experience was being measured were around KPIs like how well the agent was, how well the agent works. What is required is really what, if you talk about a customer experience, you really have to measure the customer experience. So the technology that we are just talking about right now provides a lot of data. That data gets feed in, data gets feed out. So that data provides a lot of parameters that can be converted into these kind of matrices. I give an example of a person interacting with a chatbot. The words that they use, the sentiments that they use, even that gives a kind of output. So if that can give a score, like what was the sentiment score of the end user, whether he was happy, sad, that gives a better indicator of the customer service experience, rather than how well an agent, how long does an agent take to the call. Customer may get frustrated in 5 minutes and put down the receiver, but as per the parameter, that call was just answered in very short time, but really the customer was not satisfied. So, but the technology can provide those kind of insights. So that is one example. There are a lot of such examples. In enterprise point of view, we call it employee experience, or in this case, the customer experience. And there are contractual elements to it. Even when enterprises sign contracts with service providers to improve their customer experience system, they are now based on these XLAs. We call it experience level agreements. Instead of service level agreements, we call it experience level agreements that are being included in part of these contracts.
Where are we on the AR VR journey? I mean, we keep hearing about it, but I don't know to what extent it's happening in practice. Any of you?
So I, like Rebecca, gave a perfect example of LensCard. I think that's a
LensCard was a great example, actually. Yeah.
That's I know. Yeah. So that is where it has started, and it's really gaining traction and showed good result. The adoption is not that high, Sujit, as of now, but it is increasing. And especially around high-end products, it's not that well received right now. But technology is it's more about adoption, change adoption, and how well the customer behave towards these technologies. Rebecca, do you want to add something?
You think the technology exists?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a matter of adopting it, and
Yeah, I think it's also depends on what you're using. Like LensCart is a great example, right? Because they have a very big challenge. The challenge is that people have to try their glasses. So, typically how many people are going to buy something without actually trying glasses? Because my mom wants to change her glasses, but she wants to see it falls off my eyes. That's her complaint. But if you have a AR VR that is measuring your face, and I got my first time perfect fit. Like I was so impressed with it. So and solves me the issue of going to a store and working in 4 days. It comes to you. So it really depends on what you're using for. So what is that use case that you are trying to solve for? So if you have a situation where you feel like people need to touch and feel your product and they're not going to do it in these pandemic days, that's probably a good time for you to adopt something like this. Some companies are doing it, and I think LensCard started way ahead before the pandemic, so they smoothly flowed into this. A lot of companies may be fearing that, but like Pranal said,
it's in apparel. Any idea?
I haven't seen any actually. I've heard about stories outside of India, but in India, I haven't seen anybody really take the plunge yet. Maybe they're worried about the adoption story, but LensCard is a good case study.
Okay.
Maybe Sujit, you can ask LensCard how they are doing, so that's could be a good story and for you to take forward.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Shilpa?
Rebecca, while multiple channels mean more avenues for the customer, how do you think you can ensure that the customer experience is uniform and standardized across these channels?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of one of our customers, which is a bank out of UK, which they have all over India. They have huge operations in India also. So, they wanted to give a similar experience to their digital as well as their walk-in customers. So you would typically feel that when somebody walks into your bank, you're able to create that one-on-one experience. But when you go on a digital platform, then you can't create that. So you remember that I showed you that one space where I told you to empower your customers, your employees. This is that, right? When you empower your employees to basically be able to give, like, let's say you decide, like, this is, if for a situation like this, somebody is asking for this, this is your perfect answer to give. This is your recommendation. If employees across the globe has access to that answer, that is one way for them to answer that. If they are purely doing it through digital, then by not giving broken experience, having a single unified platform, which means all your digital devices are coming to a single platform, they are feeding off a single platform. That could be one way of doing. There are lots of technologies in deep linking in marketing that can follow the websites and can take you to the final destination, which is one single pool where you pick up all your information from. So empowering our employees and having a single platform to where all your digital channels are coming to, I think these two will be able to sort of give that seamless customer experience digitally, as well as when customers are coming through digital to a contact center or a live agent. That would be my answer.
Okay. Okay, viewers, just to remind you, the chat box is open. So anybody who wants to ask questions, please feel free to send in your questions. Shilpan, I'll ask them to Mrinal and Rebecca. This whole empathy question, and both of you mentioned it. I mean, to what extent can we ensure, customer empathy in this digital environment? I guess Rebecca will again say empowerment of employees. Beyond that, I mean, is that really the crucial thing, or is there something more that can be done? How are these chatbots and all that? What are the sense people get from these chatbots? Can they be made lively and made more empathetic?
Then I'll take that question.
Yeah, sure. So I would again give the same example which I've been telling about, because I've seen that kind of solution, a demo of that in front of my eyes. So again, about the sentiment part of it. So when users respond to a chatbot with the keywords that they mention, so that's where the system can take those words and can analyze. And the good thing about automation and AI technologies is that it's not replacing human beings; it's augmenting their capabilities. So when these kind of channels provide those insights about whether a customer is happy or not, and if you ask, for example, say a Swiggy chatbot or anybody who's asking a frustrated customer they are dealing with, the chatbot, and when the sentiments show that the machine cannot handle this customer, there should be a proper way to give it to a human being. So that's where the empathy part comes in, because they know that they keep on frustrating the customer. It's better to transfer it to a human being. That those rules are not very difficult to build in the systems. I've seen the examples, and that's one very good example of how to do it. How automated systems can leverage empathy. How they can transfer it. The empathy cannot come just by a machine. It can only come with input from human beings, and the machine should know when to transition that.
Okay.
And 2 years ago, Sujit, when this question was asked, like, our chatbots and AI didn't know what the like, I don't know if you know this famous Indigo joke on Twitter, which is, one customer basically said, thanks for sending my bags to Ahmedabad when he actually landed in Bombay. And the machine basically replied back saying, you're welcome. So that was 2 years ago where the machine didn't understand. But I think the machine is understanding now. So, if you have learned in 2 years what those triggers are, and you should intelligently know that, okay, this person has this trigger, he's used this word, or he's said this, that means I should set a rule that it is escalating to a human being. So the technology is there today to sort of build that empathy. But the problem
Okay.
I see in reality in the market, because I also shop on e-com, I've seen so many chatbots. I see that as a big missing point today. And that's why I think you're also coming from that. That transition is missing drastically. Like it's impossible for me to escalate to get my issue resolved. And that is unfortunately the situation why people get frustrated with using a bot.
Okay. Okay. So escalation requires what then?
Escalation requires some similar situation that we just discussed about. Sentiment is one thing where the system can identify that the situation is going out of hand. And just to add to what Rebecca said, that when the system is able to transition to a human, the system should be intelligent enough to provide enough intelligence to the human agent so that the customer does not have to repeat the same thing to a human being which is already told the chatbot. That would again result in a bad experience.
Okay. Okay.
So to answer your question, Sujit, today there is technology available, but it's about how the company decides to implement that. Like, is that they are missing that a little bit today? That I think is missing in the market.
Got it. Shilpa?
Mrinal, I just wanted your thoughts on this, a contrarian view on hyper-personalization, how, in the growing instances of how data privacy and, security breaches are on the rise. So how do you see this playing out?
So like I said, machine is as intelligent as the data that gets fed into it, and data privacy is definitely an issue. The more a customer is open to share data, the better experience they will get. However, with growing cyber attacks, phishing, data attacks, so customers are wary. Even a normal customer who is not that worried about big data breaches, even they know that their data is important. They should not be sharing a lot of it. I think it's a fade away. The more the system knows, the better they can serve. I think what a client should do, or what these systems should do, that when they're taking a lot of information from the end user, the system should also inform the user that by giving this information, you will get this level of customer satisfaction. So if the user knows, if I'm giving a lot of data, it is actually helping in my enhanced experience, then again the choice is with the users. So and it should always stay with the user. That's where how the data privacy will always work. With the GDPR thing working in the UK, a lot of things are restricted, but it is because of data privacy, and customers care about that. So the choice, I think, should stay with the customer. But whenever the data is being asked, customers should get a proper information about how it will be used and how well they can be served. If that system is in place, there shouldn't be an issue.
This is a question from one of the viewers, Surya. How can you assuage customers and ensure she doesn't leave you for good when you know you can't help due to logistical reasons? For example, you know that the order is stuck due to lockdown, but the customers might get impatient. How do you deal with that? What technologies can be used?
Well, I spoke about bad customer experience during COVID, and anyway, getting a frustrated customer back is really bad, and especially in the COVID times, because customers care a lot about empathy, and if in these difficult times a brand is not able to cater to them, it is very difficult to get back dissatisfied customers. Technology can provide indications about where the conversations are going wrong. And if it is in good shape and it is properly used, intelligently used, I think brands can prevent customers from going away. That's what I believe.
Okay.
Shilpa? I think you over communicate to the customer. I think that's
over communicate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Shilpa, questions?
Yeah, we have questions pouring in from our viewers. The first one is from Animesh Das. Do you think there's a digital fatigue building for people working from home and doing all transactions digitally? Will a digital-only customer experience work going forward?
I mean, I can answer it from my perspective. It won't be a digital-only experience, and it won't be a digital-only work from home only situation. I think we will go to a stage where it will be a balance of both. I would say it won't be a 50-50 balance. It would be more like a 70-30, where what has pandemic taught us is that people now know that it's easy to be digital. It's easy to do things online. So it's sort of made your consumers or your folks adopt this faster, literally overnight in some cases. So they are happy to do this. They have learned to do this. People, I mean, I was never for working from home. I used to have a traveling job, and I was never for working from home. But am I okay working from home now? I love it. And do I want to go back to office? Definitely, but I would to see my colleagues, to have that collaboration. So I would try to create a balance between working from home and going to the office to do my meeting. So that will be, and it's just not me saying this out of my experience. We have done plenty of roundtables and listened to a lot of senior leaders, CIOs, CEOs, and everybody's view is that it's going to be a very combined future going forward, which will be slightly moving towards digital, but it's not going to be all digital, all remote. It's going to be a balance of both. And organizations are going to try to now get people to the office for like fun activities and like get-togethers. That's going to be the new thing, and possibly stay at home and do the things that you can do without having to deal with the traffic. So that is, I feel, is going to be the future. Mrinal, if you have to add anything.
No, absolutely. She said she summed it up very well. I think in addition to the combination, the balance, it's also important to know that what that balance would be. So a few years ago, we used to say that whatever can get automated will get automated. So in the same way, there would be a very proper segregation. The things that can be handled digitally will be handled digitally, and the things which cannot be will only go to a physical world. And I think that's where the balance is. So that's when that understanding will happen. I think you will see the change.
Yeah, same here. I echo Rebecca completely. I mean, I love working from home now. But yes, the commute was horrible for me. But yeah. So this question is from Rohit Khandelwal. With so much automation brought in due to the pandemic, what is the future of employees working in the customer service space? Will it become a redundant skill?
I mean, I can answer, Mrinal, but I still want you to answer from like a research perspective. I think you will have to reskill your customer support team to not answer basic questions. Remember, I told you in my screen, 80% of your questions are redundant questions. So think of your customer support teams that are answering the same, where is my order? How do I reset my password? Those things are going to be taken by the chatbot, and your team is going to be skilled to answer more complex questions. So what you will focus on is training and reskilling your staff to take on more complex questions, to deal more complex situations, and letting the technology do the more redundant work. That will be the future. So will it be like my whole call center will be redundant? No, you will have to focus on reskilling them, and you have to focus on like building them to do more complex situation. So that is my view of what is going to happen. Renal, if you want to add anything to that.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. So when the automation first came in, the common question that we used to get will it replace humans? We still get that question, by the way. So however, that's not the case. What we say, technology or machine has been made to make humans' life easy. When we talk of automation, it is there to make human more empowered. So if there is a task or a customer service work that a bot can do, I think that's a low-level skill. So all the low-level skills will get automated. They have to be taken over by chatbot, pandemic or not. They had to go away. And that means that the person who was still, the humans that you still have will have higher skills. And if only that's also important for the companies as well, to have high skilled labor, those who can understand the technology, those who can work with the technology, the human plus bot workforce that we talk about, that the bot workforce empowers the human to do a higher level of job. That's why we call it a personal secretary. Secretary is something that only senior executives would get, but what automation has enabled, that everyone can get a secretary. So that's the point of view that we want to focus on.
Customers become very comfortable with chatbots. What is your experience?
If we don't give broken experience, they will be. The problem is that we give them broken experiences today, but they will completely be okay with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the adoption of adoption of chatbot is a challenge, and even for not just for customer experience but also internal IT, even enterprise IT, the end users would like to talk to humans. It's very important to design the strategy in such a way that the transition happens smoothly and in a phased manner. The change adoption is very important.
Okay. Shilpa?
From Anudeep, what's the role of UX in building a good customer experience? How do UX and CX employees, does it overlap in their job, or they can actually leverage synergies there?
Mrinal.
I think they can leverage synergies there. User experience is a very important part, not the CX part of it. I think the design thinking approach and design strategy, how to design the look and feel of a technology, I think that's a completely different piece altogether, but a very important one, and it really complements the customer experience part. So UX has been something which has been under observation, and which was getting focused even before the pandemic times. So it will keep on getting more traction, and it will complement the CX part. That's what I believe.
Well, this question is also there. Social media platforms, which are the best ones, or the ones that companies are using the most, and all that in CX?
If it's B2C, I think they're using Instagram and Facebook and things like that. If it's B2C, I think. B2B scenarios, I would still think LinkedIn is still more popular, and Facebook and all the rest are probably just there for visibility perspective. This is what I think is there.
Okay.
Yes, we did this study 2 years ago. We did a study for 2 years ago for chatbots. What commercially available chatbots. Out of the social media platforms, chatbots were also there. Facebook was the leading vendor in that space. Facebook Messenger. At that time, the WhatsApp business was not that active, but I think that is also gaining a lot of traction. I think these two are very important from B2C perspective. So that's what we have been seeing. Yeah.
Okay. There's this question from Ibrahim Rasul Mohideen. How much is AI reliable? For example, consider an Indigo joke. Can we be confident that chatbots won't do such mistakes? And where's the line drawn for the size of the mistake done by the AI bots?
Well, I think the AI is as reliable as the data that gets fed into it, because it's created by humans.
But they can be made very good if you feed in all that.
Absolutely. Of course, the knowledge exists across the industry, across the company, and if it is aggregated well, and all the use cases, as Rebecca mentioned, is part of that knowledge base or database, I think then the system created with that such strong knowledge base will not fail.
Okay. So the onus is really on the companies to ensure that you have fed in all of the information required. Otherwise,
and you're watching it, right? Like you are not like
you
just
said.
You're watching what's happening, and you are optimizing.
And if there's an unanswered question, then you kind of step in and get all, like you mentioned. Okay, interesting.
Another important part is that you're able to identify the personas of your customers, what kind of personas you really encounter. If that information is also available to the system, it will perform really well.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard this from people like 24/7. The PV Kannan wrote a book on this and all that. Yeah, I know, fascinating. I think they can chatbots can be made really intelligent, I think, according to whatever I've been hearing. Shilpa?
Yeah, this question is from Ashutosh Desai. Do regional languages make automation of customer support a big challenge?
Sorry,
That's
say that
again.
again.
Very good question.
Okay. Yeah, regional language making automation of customer support a big challenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are technologies available that actually does the translation for you. So let's say you were to type in Bengali, and so it will translate to English, go fetch the information for you, bring it back to you in English, and then translate back to you in your question that you asked. The only thing is, it depends on what technology you're using and how reliable and also these are all things that keep learning on the job, right? So machine is like learning throughout the process. So it depends on how many times they have used this and how well the understanding, how well have you tied the two languages. So all that is available. There are also a lot of companies that actually create knowledge bases in regional languages. So if you know, that is one of the options to do it. The more difficult one is to create the regional databases, or the easy one is to have it once in English or in one language, and then you have this the technology which sits in between, which does the translation. So reliable, again, it depends on what technology you're using and how well your company has optimized it. So, but it's possible, and it's actually happening today, especially in the banking world, where you have to cater to all sorts of folks from different regions. Renal, if you want to add anything, or
Renal, you want to add?
No, I'm not very much aware about the Indian context, but I'm aware about real-time translation service solutions backing up the chatbot functionality. And as she said, if the rules are properly made, and in India it's especially very difficult because one word means different things in different language context. So if those kind of rules are made properly in the real-time translation, because the translation engine also depends on a third-party integration. If that third party has a strong translation capabilities, then the system will be efficient. If not, then there would be a challenge.
Okay. Just to clarify, Rebecca, you said 80% of the queries are answered at the first touch point. You're saying, is it?
That's the stats typically that you will see in the market. That if you look at a typical customer support scenario, 80% of the questions are regular redundant questions which can be answered by the bot, and the complex questions are only the 20%. So
20%.
Yeah. The complex ones, genuine issues are only that. And if your adoption is very good at your first end from any AI that you put, then you can see that kind of improvement. You can imagine 80% reduction in your call or your chat volumes or your engagement. That's what we're talking about. So that's the kind of benefits, the benefits you can receive when you actually adopt a technology like this.
Okay. Shilpa, do you have any more questions?
Not from the audience yet.
No,
but you can talk about, sorry, Sujit, go ahead.
No, go on.
Yeah, do you think the increasing number of digital touch points is posing a security risk? How do you really tackle this, especially in a real-time scenario, right?
Yeah. So it's a real problem, and you have to be mindful about how and where you're sending your customer data, especially if you're interacting with customer data. So it's really up to you, to whoever you are taking on as your partner, and how their data is going. Is it residing in India? Is it going outside India? Does your partner that you are bringing on board to do this work for you can establish that they are actually secure? So are they up to the GDPR compliance? If it's leaving the country, or if it's going to anywhere else, is it complying to that? So that is a real question, but it is something that each company has to really do the due diligence before they adopt this, and then also make sure that you are taking care of that and checking on whichever platform that you bring on board. So I would ask Mrinal to sort of also add, because he would have seen this from a worldview on what other countries are doing in terms of sort of making this happen, especially from the SI side, right? Like, how are they looking at this?
Yeah, I think the data protection is a very very big area on its own. The cybersecurity technologies are making a lot of advancements. I think the protection is happening not just only at the data point. If a data leaves out, and you said endpoints, we call it devices or endpoints. The protection is happening at the device side, the data side, even the network side. And there are a lot of technologies which can wrap the data, wrap the applications. Even if you're using a smartphone, and not all applications can provide an SMS functionality through your OS. So even at OS level, the device manufacturers, the OEMs like Apple, Dell, even they are securing the data inflow and outflow. So the security technologies are expanding at every level, because everyone understands the security risk. So a client really has to understand what all touch points, platforms, networks, endpoints the data can go through, and has to apply securities at each level as applicable.
And the onus is really on the company that is taking the customer data for them to do that due diligence in terms of identifying the partner and also securing and making sure that the customer data is safe.
Okay, great. We're almost 10 minutes past our scheduled time. So great discussion. Amazing technology is emerging to kind of solve this whole issue of how to reach the customer and give them a great experience when they are all at home, working remotely and all of that. Thanks a lot, Mrinal. Thanks a lot, Rebecca. Thanks to LogMeIn for partnering with us on this session. Great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujit.
Thank you.
Great discussion.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.